I am Hawkeye, and I was figuring I would like to do a bunch of YouTube videos on a sports team that I love. I wonder if you can guess which team that is. Now, actually, I already have some videos on YouTube under Hawkeye's House of Horrors. It's actually a channel that has movie reviews about horror or science fiction films. I've really been enjoying doing that. And in the course of doing that, I've actually maybe thought about doing some YouTube videos on this team. Um, so I figured, why not do some videos about uh, the Toronto Maple Leafs? So let's go for it. Now, I'll say as well. I also figure if I get on here and give my 2 cents on the general state of the Leafs currently, and I certainly will. Um, I do not feel that I would really bring anything new to the table in that situation. For like, I don't have any access to the players, and I literally do not watch every Leaf game anymore. Usually what happens, because my wife and I, we have like general cable, so it's the Saturday night games. And I work during the week. Sometimes I work when they're playing. So I'll either watch it at home or I'll go to my dad's and the two of us, he's a big time Leaf fan too. We'll sit down and watch a game on Saturday night and see how the Leafs do. And of course, in the playoffs, do that as well. Um, but and I would say um, last year certainly was the first year in a long time where I kind of was involved with the Leafs or really paying attention to the Leafs the whole season. And it'd be really the first time I've really been that involved or with the Leafs really since perhaps they had Phil Kessel on the team. So it's been quite a while. Um, Now, some people likely not Leaf fans, uh, would say, why are you doing that? Why are you doing this? Because I feel I could see what was going to happen in the end, and that was yet another first round loss in the playoffs. It's not always the case. They did beat the Tampa Bay Lightning the year previous, only to lose to the Florida Panthers in only 5 games. Boy, were they ever a stronger team. And I didn't know that going into that series. But some people would say, why do you want to do this? Um, or why were you becoming so involved with that team? Um, and really, it was because I'll get to that in a moment or two, but I was doing a blog about the Leafs. And I wanted to watch the game and try and look at it through different eyes, not totally as the fan of the Leafs, a total fanatic. I wanted to look at it through other eyes, I hope. Um, while I do these videos, I'm going to try and do this calmly. I'm not going to yell and scream. I'm going to try not to curse and swear. Because who knows, maybe there'll be some kids that'll be interested in watching this. There's a ton of kid Leaf fans out there, and I don't need to get into a profanity-laced tirade about the Leafs or anything like that. I'd like to look at this calmly and try and talk about it calmly as well, about the Leafs. Although there are going to be some darn good reasons in these videos as why you should yell as a Leaf fan. Um, Now, a bit of a backstory of myself within hockey. As a kid, I loved hockey. With all the neighborhood friends on the street I lived on, or the block that I lived on, we played road hockey a lot of the time. We also did play baseball, but it was primarily that was the summer, excuse me, or the fall, and hockey was the winter and the spring, maybe the fall too. We played baseball in the spring too, whatever. Um, but usually we'd set up nets in front of my house, and a good buddy of mine, he lived right next door, Scott. It was in front of our houses. We'd set up these nets and play road hockey with everybody on the street. Sometimes we'd invite other people over to play as well. The reason why it was in front of our house, we had the most level road. Is that level? I think so. In front of our houses. Other people on the street, they're like on hills or our corners, I even think. But so we kind of did have the best place to play hockey in front of our houses. Now, both of my parents loved hockey as well. My dad played hockey when he was a youth and a teenager. My mother taught me well and taught me to hate the Montreal Canadiens, but also to love the Toronto Maple Leafs uh, through thick and thin. Um, but that love within me really didn't blossom fully and never went away when it did happen. But that happened in the 1993 playoffs when the Leafs went on really their first playoff run in my lifetime. But unfortunately, they lost to Wayne Gretzky, the great one, and the LA Kings that year. Um, but anyways, into reasons why I want to do these videos on here on YouTube. Because for the past couple hockey seasons, I've been writing a blog about the Leafs. And a big, huge thanks goes out to my cousin Bob. He's been following it, um, following along with the blog, even watching old games and stuff like that that I've been watching. I'll send him um, videos and stuff like that for some of these old games, and it's great. He's a big time Leaf fan as well. So big thanks goes out to him, and he's been watching it with his kids as well. So that's been great. But this blog is a really a slow process at looking into the Leafs through the years and reasons as to why this is it. This is the big reason why the Leafs have not won a cup since 1967. Why has that happened? Um, so um, I've gotten through maybe like 20 some odd seasons so far, but I'm going to translate that, if you will, into YouTube videos that'll bring you. So I'm going to give you, I'll go through trades, draft, every draft, free agent signings, coaches, general managers, and each season and playoffs that the Leafs had, and maybe some input as to what they need to do the next season, or you know how the future looks for the team at that point. Um, Now, I certainly do not believe that the Leafs are cursed. I do not believe that for a second. That is like saying everything Harold Ballard did was brilliant and best for the team. So it must have been a curse um, that prevented this team from achieving the ultimate success since 1967. No, there has not been a cup in Toronto since that time due to decisions that were made. Now, you cannot really throw it all at Harold Ballard as well. Absolutely not. I mean, in the 35 years, some odd years since he passed away, the Leafs have yet to um, advance from the semifinals, and they've been there four times in 35 years in the semifinals. Never won, but that's as far as they've gone. And since 1967, yeah, that's the furthest they've gone, and they've done it five times since that time. Never to the finals. Now, for those 35 years, you cannot blame Harold Ballard for that at all, I would say. So, what I'm going to do here, I'm going to get into a time machine, and we're going to go back to the 1960s. Uh, it was the time of peace, love, rock and roll, and Leaf Stanley Cups. They had four of them back in the 60s, in fact. Sadly, it was still one less than the hated Montreal Canadiens. But anyways, that's just a little side note. Um, Now you might think at first, okay, just pick up after the last Stanley Cup. Just start there. But no, I think I'll go back to the very first NHL amateur draft that ever happened. And that was back in 1963. Um, Now, the Leafs general manager and coach at the time was George Punch Imlach, who did not think really too highly of the draft. I'm not sure how many other general managers did at the time. It was a brand new idea for the NHL. But he, in fact, in 1974, sorry, for the Buffalo Sabres, drafted a Taro Sugimoto, who was a made up player. He did not exist. Big joke there. But I kind of feel the joke was on the Buffalo Sabres, as it's hard for a person to help you that doesn't exist. And by the way, the Sabres have never won a Stanley Cup in their existence either. You can't throw all that at Punch, but just add that to that comment. Now, what do I think of the current team, the current Toronto Maple Leafs? Well, looking at the team, and they're actually playing tonight. Well, not gonna put this on the very date, but they're playing the Montreal Canadiens tonight. It's their season opener in Montreal, I believe. There was no score when I started this, but when looking at the team and the additions that they've made and haven't made, I think their defense has gotten better and their defense has gotten deeper as well, which is good. Now, there are some questions in net for the Leafs, especially since I believe right before I started this, I see that Joseph Wall has been put onto the injured reserve. Whew, thank goodness they had four goalies coming into this season. Now, to me, the biggest problem is the core four. We're going on a lot of years here with these same individuals on the team. Now, I will say this about the current Leafs, man, they are highly skilled. They can really maneuver with the puck and are can do some very nice offensive things with the puck and defensively as well. Definitely Mitch Marner and Austin Matthews. They're very good in their own zone, I believe, as well. But I think this is their biggest problem. They haven't been able to win with this team, and I don't see any indication now that this team is a cup contender. They might be better than they were last year, but we don't know. We don't know. Who knows? Maybe they will win the Stanley Cup, but in the end, unfortunately, I got a feeling that it's going to be the same old, same old. They might get out of the first round, but if they do, I don't think they're getting any further than that. I don't think they've got what they need to do it. But hey, we're gonna find out, and I'm gonna enjoy watching when it comes playoff time. I always love watching the Leafs in the playoffs. Now, yeah. Now there's questions people may have about my thoughts about hockey and such that I can bring out here. Um, So while doing this blog, I definitely have watched some old hockey and hockey that was before I was ever born. And to those, maybe some people who've never watched old hockey or, um, you know, are much more in tune with how hockey is nowadays. Hockey nowadays is very fast. And you really need to know how to stick handle for sure, skate, uh, maneuver with the puck, everything like that. But um, in old hockey, absolutely it was definitely slower, but it was a lot more aggressive hockey. There was, and going back into what was known as the original six, the six teams that were there before the first expansion back in 1967, there was a hatred going on with some of those teams, a real true blue hatred. for the other team. Where nowadays, like, it must not be the same. That's before my time. Um, but it was a different game, absolutely. And I'm certainly not going to sit here and say, well, today's hockey is garbage because of A, B, and C, or say hockey back then, well, nobody had skill and nobody could play net, nobody was any good. No, it was a different game altogether. Well, not altogether. You still got to put the puck in the net. I mean, it's not that different, but yeah, it was a different game for sure. Um, and I've really enjoyed the opportunity to see some of those old games. That's been a lot of fun. But sadly, I didn't see a whole lot. I did see some of them, but I didn't see as much of Bobby Orr as I was wanting to. Maybe I would have if I did a deep dive into the Boston Bruins, maybe. Um, but I didn't see a whole lot of him. But what I did, some of it was actually rather special to see him penalty kill or play keep away with some of the other players on the other team. It was some of it was pretty special. Just as an example, I didn't see much of Gordie Howe either. I saw a little bit of him, not much, even less than I saw Bobby Orr. Uh, but in my opinion, I think Wayne Gretzky was the greatest hockey player of all time that I've seen. But I think the greatest goal scorer of all time, I think, was Mario Lemieux, who may have just been neck and neck with Gretzky. He was that close to him. They were different players as well, but both amazing offensive players. In a time where goals were of the premium, there was a lot of goals being scored back in the 80s and the early 90s. There was a lot of goals. Now, with the Leafs, there seems to be a giant swelling of people stating that Austin Matthews is the greatest Leaf of all time. I would have to disagree with that. I would say he is the greatest Leafs goal scorer of all time, but I think the greatest player that I've seen in watching uh, all the hockey I've seen of the Leafs, the greatest Leaf I've seen was Dave Keon. He could do a lot. So can Austin Matthews. He can do a lot too. But Dave Keon, I don't know. Um, he'd go in the corner like with everybody on the ice, and it'd be Keon coming out with the puck. Or if you really wanted to try and get under his skin, that's not a good idea because you're likely going to be picking the puck out of your net. That's how he got you back, was scoring goals on you. And man, he was a joy to watch. He didn't put up huge point seasons. It was a different hockey back then. It was very more defensive minded as well. Um, but he was definitely a joy to watch in Dave Keon. Now, the greatest Leaf goalie I've seen was the man Johnny Bower. It was hilarious and scary watching him play net with no mask, with guys like Bobby Hull who could let him rip, and he's got no mask. Just fearless. I actually read a book about him, and I loved it, and it was a real treat to read. Johnny Bower. It was great, incredible goalie. And I remember when I was a kid playing road hockey, and at least maybe thinking I was playing really great. No, not wearing a mask, of course. I was thinking at times I was Johnny Bower, the man. That was great. Other Leaf goalies that were really good, Felix Potvin, Curtis Joseph. He, he he was one of my favorites, Curtis Joseph goalies, for sure. And seeing this guy back in the 70s, he was before my time. I do believe he was one of the best goalies in the league. A very short list, and that was Mike Palmateer, who led the Leafs to the semis in 1978, along with Daryl Sittler, another fantastic Leaf as well. Yeah, he was an excellent player, excellent player. I actually worked with a guy, and it was really funny. He said about Palmetier, he was the only Leaf, I think, that would get somebody to run and get him a hot dog in the intermission in the Gardens. I think that's a hilarious story, and I don't think that would go on nowadays. But the Red Hots must give you cat-like reflexes. That's great. I love it. Now, my favorite Leaf of all time, there is no doubt about it. My favorite Leaf is Wendell Clark. Um, Last season, last hockey playoffs, last hockey season, sorry, not the playoffs, but I saw his first year, his rookie season with the Leafs, and man, oh man, amazing. He was totally a guy that would get you out of your seat back then. I think he would still do it today. If they played hockey like that, they don't really, but he was so full of energy. He was only 18 years old when he started with the Leafs, like Austin Matthews was. Um, but if you had the puck on the ice as the opposition, you had to know where Wendell was. You had to know. Some didn't in these games I saw, and man, they got nailed. Real good. Yeah, he was a good body checker. He got into a few tussles over his years as well, and some very key goals for the Leafs through the years. Another couple guys I really liked as a kid, Rick Vive. I saw like I think his last year or two there. It was really sad when they traded him to Chicago. I really liked him, and I always kept an eye on him, his career after he left Toronto. And I really liked Ali Afraidy as well, the defenseman. I loved him rushing up the ice, this big, huge man coming down the ice. One of only, I believe, three defensemen ever for the Leafs to score 20 goals, and I think he did it twice. The others were Ian Turnbull and Riley with the Leafs now. Those are the only three guys. But anyways, in the end, though, before I die, I would love to experience what it feels like to win a Stanley Cup. Sorry for making all these motions. My new webcam, it kind of goes in and out with the Zoom. I apologize. I'll try not to move around maybe so much as I scratch my neck there. But anyways, I would love to see them win the Stanley Cup just once. I'm not asking for a dynasty here, just 1 year where I can watch my team that I've been cheering for all these decades to win a Stanley Cup, to feel it. As I said earlier, like I love baseball, and the Toronto Blue Jays are my baseball team. So I saw them win the World Series twice. It was amazing. I will always remember that. It was so special. I would love to feel that with the Leafs just once, one time. So, anyways, I'm going to create some videos, slap them on here. Sorry if this intro was really long, but I felt there were some things I needed to go through here with you. But anyways, hopefully somebody out there enjoys it and follows these videos or the path of the Leafs through the years. And yeah, that'll be a lot of fun doing this here for you. But anyways, don't forget to like if you like it, subscribe as there are hopefully going to be some videos on here going through the years, or comment on whatever you'd like. Just keep it professional and not profanity laced. Come on, think of the kids. There might be some watching or reading. Just, try and be family friendly about it all. I would love feedback. Maybe there's something that you know that I don't know that you'd like that we could share with everyone. I mean, I'm going to go back going over stuff that I wasn't even alive for. So, like, I'm just investigating this, reading up, looking this stuff up, and uh, doing some YouTube videos on it. But, anyways, I'm Hawkeye. I can't wait to bring these for you. And until next time, go Leafs, go.